Shall we?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another roundtable where we discuss Zack Snyder's Justice League and all that surrounds it. This is episode 21. I am joined by Dr. Pranav, Werner, and Cinema Guerrilla. What's going on, guys?
What's good, guys?
Hey.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm looking forward to this. I was on the round table, I want to say back at the end of May, beginning of June. I think it was like the third or fourth one. Haven't been on one since. I've caught them here and there. I got a pretty busy life, so it's not like I can just sit down and watch an hour and a half of 20 different episodes of YouTube, but I try and catch as much as I can. I don't know if you guys have checked it out, but please go find these roundtables, because what I've seen, and there's a lot of YouTubers and people I know that have been part of them. They're absolutely worth checking out, especially if you want to get a deep dive into all, like I said, is within the Snyder Cut and everything that's surrounding what Zack Snyder has created for the DC universe. Now, today, I do want to talk about, number one thing is the Sequitas design that Zack made on a t-shirt back in 2019. It is a very interesting design and a kind of storytelling mechanism of sorts, because that was way before we knew that we were getting the Snyder Cut. I think it was way before Snyder even knew that it would be released, and he kind of, with this whole design, put it out there as a sort of just like, hey, this is what we missed, guys. This is what we could have had if I could have finished my vision. But before we get into all that, like I said, that's the main thing I want to talk about. Let's kind of go through here. I want to go with everybody here and find out what got you in to Zack Snyder's DC or the Snyderverse storyline. So I'm going to start with Pranav, if you want to go ahead and just tell us what got you into all this.
All right. I never followed directors as such, before. I kind of knew the guy. This guy did 300, which is pretty good. And then I watched Watchmen, and I was blown away by it. And then a friend of mine recommended Sucker Punch. He said it was from the same guy as Watchmen, and you have to watch it. It's like a video game, all these cool sequences, and I watched it, and I liked it. I liked the style. I loved the movie, and I was a fan, But even then, I didn't follow people as such. Even Christopher Nolan, I didn't follow any of these great directors or their works. And it wasn't until 2016 I didn't have a chance to watch Man of Steel when it came out, school and stuff. But in 2016, BBS came out, and I was really excited for the movie. And I watched it, and I was blown away by it. It wasn't even a regular comic book movie. It was something very deep. There were a lot of stuff jammed into it, and I could feel like I had to watch it multiple times to get to the root of it, to see what it is trying to really say. And from then on, I was like a complete fanboy of Zack. I went back, watched any of his movies that I hadn't watched till then. I think I watched Man of Steel just before BVS, and I loved it, so I rewatched Man of Steel, and I was a fan. That's how I got into the Snyderverse.
All right. How about you, Werner? How did you get into the Snyderverse?
Well, for me, it started with Man of Steel. I've always been a big fan of Superman and comics. And after I saw Man of Steel, I was like, yeah, this is the kind of comic book movies I want to see in the future. And with BVS, I was completely blown away, I gotta say. That was the movie that got me, well, how do you describe this? It was the perfect comic book movie for me. I loved it from the beginning to the end. There has never been a comic book movie for me that was this good. And that was the beginning, and I still love the DCEU. or the multiverse. If that's the future, we will see. But I've been a fan since Man of Steel, and Zack Snyder, always a fan since the 300. There is no way around him if you're a fan of cinematic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. That's a good way to go with it. And how about you, Cinema Guerrilla? What got you into the Snyderverse of everything?
That's so true that if you're a film fan or a regular audience member, you know Zack Snyder from 300 and even his music videos before. With me, besides 300, Watchmen for sure was an experience unlike any other, watching it from the prologue to the actual release in IMAX and everything. His strategy and even his bonus features, the way he would share his making of. So whenever those DVDs would come out, we studied him and Man of Steel, of course. But then I was blessed to, during my film school, be an intern for the producers of BVS and Justice League. So to be part of the Snyderverse as an audience member and even as an intern was a blessing, and Zach deserves the support that we all give him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, for one, I've talked about this many times. I mean, Man of Steel, in my opinion, is a masterpiece of a film when it comes to the superhero genre. There is not a superhero origin story that is better that has been released on film or in live action, in my opinion. And that movie, it really spoke to me. It kind of opened my eyes to what they can actually do with the superhero genre and how they could make it feel like they even got away from what Nolan did. Nolan tried to ground the superhero genre with his Dark Knight trilogy, but this just seemed like it was on a completely different level when it came to Man of Steel. It made me truly feel for the characters and actually connect with Superman. And it was fantastic. It was different than anything that Marvel was doing. It was different than what we've seen from DC in the past, and that's what really pulled me into it. Batman vs Superman, I have a different type of story with, but I wasn't a big fan of it when I saw it in theaters. I was actually pretty upset with what I witnessed, and by the time the release came out for the Ultimate Edition, I remember purchasing it digitally while it was at work, and I immediately went home after work, put it on my TV, and I sat up until about 3-4 in the morning watching the Ultimate Edition and just was blown away because I was like, how did I not see this movie 3-4 months ago? So it blew me away, and my excitement just started to build and build as I started dissecting and piecing together all the different symbolisms and the poetic nature of the two films together. As I started putting that all together myself, I was just blown away. And for me, Zack Snyder, I mean, I loved Dawn of the Dead. I loved 300. I loved The Watchmen. But it was this. It was Man of Steel into Batman vs Superman that really got me into everything. So I hope that helps get to know everybody a little bit better here. I know I'm excited to push forward with this here. We're getting the Snyder Cut. It's coming in 2021. We got some big things besides the Snyder Cut that I know that people are excited about happening and speculating on, such as Batfleck's return to The Flash. Is he going to get his own standalone show or movie to finish off his arc like he wanted to originally? Are we going to get more Justice League than the Snyder Cut? So let's start first with this design. So we'll kind of go that route here. The Aquatus design. Now, have all three of you seen this before? Sure you have.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to kind of just start at the top here and work my way down. If there's anything you want to discuss, let me know. Now, quickly, I want to say that this is, according to research, this is based off of the Tree of Life. There's similarities to it between this and the Tree of Life. Now, the Tree of Life has a few more different columns in it, or I think one additional column, as well as some other lines through it. But it's the basic idea and basic design of the Tree of Life. Now, in the case with the design with Snyder, we see that each node, which is the little markings you'll see at the top, it's Superman. Over on one side, it's Aquaman. Each node is symbolizing one of the heroes within the Justice League. So to kind of get a grasp of what this all is, equatus, I believe is how you say that, equatus, not 100% sure. I apologize. It's Latin, but it is a Latin concept of justice, equality, conformity, symmetry, and fairness. This is where the English word equality is derived from. Now, at the top of the tree, we see this word, which helps symbolize and convey justice. Now, we don't want to forget that while this is very much what Snyder was doing is very much a Superman arc in the Superman story, we are witnessing one of the most important aspects of the story, which is that of the Justice League and how Superman is the symbol where these heroes will join him in the sun. So I think it's important to realize that, with this symbol, and I wish I could pull it up for you guys to see it a little bit better. With this symbol, it's this equatus, this whole thing. This is going to give us the story of the Justice League of Superman in a way. Now, Superman sits at the top in the top node 1. He's the symbol of hope. He's placed in the first node known as Keter or Katar. Again, I'm terrible with words. This is described as a regal or godlike placing, or godlike. Placing his symbol within a circle also insinuates the perfection of this being. So the circle being a symbol of perfection. You see the rays coming out from the S, very similar to the symbolization of Jesus Christ, where most pictures you see of Jesus Christ, you see a ray of sun behind him, kind of radiating behind him. Again, just kind of following that whole idea that Superman is very godlike in a way. He was given to the earth similar to how Jesus was given to the earth in Christianity. Now, that's one thing that I don't know some people don't realize. Some people do. It's kind of on the nose. So I think people get it. There's a lot of Christian symbolism within what Snyder has created. So tell me a little bit about, with you guys, with your thoughts on how Snyder has handled Superman. I don't know who wants to jump in here. We'll maybe start with Cinema Guerrilla. What are your thoughts on how Snyder has handled Superman in that regard?
Well, to avoid speaking too much about story, I'll let you guys take much more of that. But coming from an immigrant point of view, we have seen how Zack supports immigrants. Even Henry Cavill, being an immigrant himself, he represents this character that we have rarely seen in cinema, much less in superhero movies. So to me, not only Zack using any religious iconography as his own expression as his own filmmaker, his own personal beliefs, if anything, but also to humanize a superhuman figure, much like the way us humans do in all cultures. In all cultures, we have deities that we have taken into human figures with religious iconography of light shining behind them and the glorification of it. So we as humans can all understand them and empathize more with it.
All right. Werner, go ahead, man.
Well, Cinema Guerrilla really said what needs to be said about it. He showed us Superman as the god that many people see him in the movie, and they talk to him like many people in our world talk to God. And these symbols, these pictures show just that. What I think is the way Zack Snyder always tells his stories, with his visuals. That's always his way to speak to us, and that's the way he showed Superman to the people, to us. And Cinema Guerrilla really said most of the things I had to say about it.
All right. Pranav?
Yeah, I agree with Cinema Guerrilla and Werner. I think if you coming back to BVS, there's that line a journalist says on TV, right? Maybe he's not a Jesus or devil character. maybe he's just a guy doing the right thing. But if you look back, like a lot of the prophets in all these religious texts and religions all throughout the world were just a guy doing the right thing. He didn't set out to be a god or a prophet. Yeah, he was just focused on helping humanity find themselves, find the good in them. And that is pretty much what Superman does in the comics, movies, any media that adapts the character. So I think Zach was touching on that aspect of Superman with Man of Steel. And with BBS, you see the reaction to that from the world. As we know, the world is pretty cynical. When you look at it, we tend to demonize people easily. We get afraid of things that we do not understand, and we get emotions, come in between our rational thinking. And when such a Jesus character comes, we've seen it throughout other religions and other prophets too. Like we usually end up causing harm to the person who's trying to do some good, and that is what we see in BBS. Even though Superman is this kind of immortal, omniscient, like all powerful being, he was human. He grew up as a human, and he was hurt by the way the world reacted. But then he realizes that his mission has nothing to do with how the world perceives him and the reaction to him, and he needs to keep moving forward. He needs to do everything he can to like protect his people, and that's what he ends up doing in BBS.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Superman, you've all hit on very important parts there and points with it. And I always take it back to a lot of the arguments that I have with people is how Zack Snyder doesn't understand Superman. And it baffles me because there's two things that they go to constantly. It is Jonathan Kent's death and the moment whenever he mangles that truck at the bar. And I try to explain to people that it wasn't about taking the Superman from the comics or what we saw from Christopher Reeves or what we saw in Smallville. It wasn't about bringing that to the big screen. It was about updating it to the 21st century and giving us a vision of Superman that stays true to who he is, but builds on that lore and kind of humanizes him in a way that he's never been humanized before. And I love the way that, and I just watched Man of Steel the other day because, again, I love that movie. And, the lessons that his father, Jonathan, teach him, about, keeping himself hidden. And it isn't because, yes, Jonathan's afraid of showing off his son and losing his son to the world, but he's also afraid and saying, look, we need to protect the world. We have to protect the world as well, because this is going to change everything about it. And that is a huge lesson that Clark is trying to learn from Man of Steel into Batman vs Superman, and quite possibly through the Justice League film or films, is that he has to protect the world. And he kind of comes to that realization at the end of Batman vs Superman. Jonathan is sort of his not idol, but his example of how to be a hero. And that's what I go back to that tornado scene is it isn't necessarily that Superman can't do anything to save his father there, because that's what the comics did. That's what everybody remembers is, Jonathan Kent has a heart attack. There's nothing that Superman can do to prevent that. That's not what we were trying to do here. Where he was making Jonathan the example of heroism and protecting the world and protecting others. And that scene symbolizes. And I still get choked up when I watch it. I mean, it's been out since 2012, 2013. I still get choked up watching it. It is an amazing scene, and I love the way that they do that. And that's the thing with Snyder is he understands and has utilized Superman as a way of showing, one, that we all have this ability to be a hero. Now it's just because Superman has these special and these great abilities that he can do far more than what anybody else can. But what he's done with the story of Superman from Clark Kent through Man of Steel and BVS is stating, like, look, we can all be heroes. Superman is meant to be greater than that, but we are all capable of being a hero. And that's one thing I really, really like about what he's been doing with Superman, and what a lot of people just don't get because they're so stuck on, oh, his dad died in a tornado, or, oh, look, he mangled a truck, because he was mad. Well, yeah. I mean, he was raised as a human. He's going to have emotions. He's going to get mad. It's just one of those things, like, people just don't realize, like, look, this isn't your happy-go-lucky Superman, big boy in blue, because he hasn't gotten there yet. We need to see him get to that. Why? Like, to me, it isn't fun to sit down and just see the same thing over and over and over again. I want to see that evolution. How did he get to being that man, that idol, that symbol of hope? So for me, I love what Snyder's been doing, and obviously we're all going to love what Snyder's been doing, but I love what he's done with Superman, and I think that he's hit the nail on the head, plus more, because, like I said, I believe he's updated it for the 21st century. All right.
Well said.
Now, as we move down, again, the symbol here kind of goes down. There's a sword that goes through the earth, through a round table, and barely penetrating a coffin at the bottom. Now, the interesting thing about that is we see this sword. Now, this to me is symbolizing, because the sword goes through the top of the earth, it's symbolizing Superman's arrival, his life, and his death. We going through a table which has the Omega symbol on it, which obviously the Omega symbol is representing Darkseid. On top of on the table, there's a word, Courtland. Now, that is an Old English word meaning land of court. And as we're talking heavily about the Christianity symbolism and connections here, Snyder is also influenced by the King Arthur legend, the Knights of the Round Table. Obviously, the round table discussions that have been going on for 20 or 21 episodes now. Now we see 6 swords sticking out of that table, which signifies the other members of the League throughout the series: Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, Flash. Now, if the big sword is symbolizing Superman, there's an additional sword there, which I truly believe was for Green Lantern. But more on that another time for everybody, I'm sure. Now, the sword is still, it's penetrating that table as well, and it gets to that coffin with a letter W written on it. Now, if you're not aware, Snyder's story, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for those of you that aren't aware, the story was supposed to end with Bruce Wayne's death. And that is what that is symbolizing, is the sword going all the way through that. It's showing that Superman's lessons, or what he was able to teach Bruce Wayne, eventually does end up in his death, but it's in a much better way than Superman killing him. It's much more poetic, especially if you consider all that Bruce lost, how he lost his way, how he was all ready to kill, like he was ready to kill Clark, but then he was able to be pulled out of the darkness because of Superman's sacrifice. So that's kind of what that whole thing symbolizes there. Now, for those of you who here on the stream with me here, for the three of you here, what is it that you think from that whole aspect of everything? The Earth is kind of like Man of Steel, I look at the Courtland, the table is the Justice League arc, and then the death of Wayne. How do you feel about that being the story? Do you think that's something that was a good path to take to end up with potentially Bruce Wayne's death? Who do we want to go with? Werner, why don't you go
I'll
first?
start.
Oh.
Yeah,
go.
go ahead. Okay, fine. I'd like to start by saying a friend of mine on Twitter, Sal, he likes to say how Zach compresses big philosophical points into Renaissance paintings, into like one shot of a Renaissance painting, and like that has so much meaning to it. So he basically compressed his whiteboard. Like he had a whiteboard with his 5 movie arc plan all jotted down, um, for him to keep track of, and he compressed that into this design for the t-shirt for charity. And I love that thing about it. It's so full of details and stuff that we can keep analyzing and finding new things. In regards to the whole the middle section of the t-shirt design, I think Superman is shown as the hilt of the sword, and at the end of it is Bruce Wayne in a coffin, symbolizing his death. And a sword, like we know, it can be used to protect lives and cause death and destruction. So if you do not know, like Zach's plans were to have Superman be under the control of the anti-life equation and turn evil when Darkseid kills Lois Lane, and Batman has to go back in time and sacrifice himself instead of Lois Lane so that Superman can be saved from the effects of the equation. And so in Justice League 2, part 2, Superman was supposed to turn evil. That symbolizes like the destruction part of the sword. And then he was supposed to to come back to his original self and protect the world and the people on the earth. So both life and destruction. And we all know, like Ben Affleck joined this universe, basic or signed up for it basically because he knew how the arc would end with his sacrifice, and he wouldn't have to play it for 15 years, like cameos every year, and be in shape every year, so I think he wanted a good story arc for his Batman, and maybe in the meantime, with the spin-off for his Batman movie, he could explore some of his backstory and for the 20 years in Gotham part, and maybe give the fans a bit more of Batman other than the Justice League and Man of Steel BVS, the 5 movie arc. And I think that was a fantastic path to go forward with, because we have on the one hand we have like the MCU structure of phases, and each phase leading to the other and all that, and it's a good contrast to have on the other hand this limited 5 movie arc with multiple spin-offs, and the story ends there and Zach leaves. Someone else can take up the mantle, but sure, like that story ends. Superman has his huge arc, Batman has his arc, the whole league has their own arcs, and that was a fantastic way to go forward with.
Yeah. Who wants to take next?
Well, I guess there's not that much to add to all those, because you really got into almost everything there is to say. But there is one part of the story that really comes short in, you can say always, and that's the fact that at the end of the story, Bruce Wayne not only dies, but always gets a son. So his ending is at the same time a new beginning for the future, of the DCEU in this way, and it would been very interesting to see where this was going. But nonetheless, I think we will see how this all is going to end, because I'm not pretty sure, but I guess Wonder Woman would be, the mother in this way. Nobody knows what's officially the plan or what is going on there. Any of you know?
Well, I mean, with when in regards to the story, the overall story, are you asking what we're getting? Are we going to be getting more than just Snyder's Justice League, or how everything? Because Wonder Woman, the next Wonder Woman movie is again another prequel of sorts.
Yeah.
So that's not going to connect to this overall story that Snyder was creating really at all. It kind of seems to me, from what I've seen, it kind of seems that it's a little more disconnected than even the original or the first Wonder Woman movie was. So I don't think that's going to have any connection. But I think in the grand scheme of things, are we going to get more Justice Leagues? Yeah, I think so. There's something I wanted to talk about here in a bit after this in regards to Henry Cavill. He kind of made some comments this past week, and it's really leading us to believe, or leading me to believe at least, that there's something bigger at play than just the Snyder Cut coming out, which I think is kind of exciting.
I'd like to
Oh, go
I'd
ahead.
like to add something. Yeah, Werner, to answer your question, I think Zach has confirmed this on Vero and stuff. Even in the picture, if you look, the coffin overlays the Batman symbol, and from the Batman symbol, there's a sperm and like a drop of blood or a tear, and which leads to a baby.
Yeah.
And apparently Zach was planning on having Superman and Lois have a baby and name it after Bruce, and call him Bruce.
Yeah, I apologize. I kind of didn't catch what the whole question was. If there's going to be a relationship there, that's they're focusing on the Lois and Clark relationship, and as he was saying, the baby that is symbolized at the bottom is supposed to be the child that Lois has at the end of the story, which whether it's either going to be Bruce Jonathan Kent or Jonathan Bruce Kent, whatever it's going to be, that's kind of the idea behind what they're going to do there, which I keep saying they are going to do because I truly believe it's going to happen. But Cinema, how about you, man? What are your thoughts here? Do you have anything to add to it?
Yeah, the doctor and Werner touched upon something good, which is the passing of the torch. Let's say Zach, when he started Man of Steel and any talk of a potential trilogy or franchise, he wasn't expecting it to be a whole universe, let's say. That wasn't heard of back then in the Man of Steel era. And when Legendary was working with Warner Brothers, that wasn't the kind of deals that were being made. So when he got BVS, that was a story, that was a franchise that the Warner Brothers studios have been trying to make for years. That was the BVS storyline, was a storyline they've been wanting to promote for decades, and Zach was at the right time, right place to make it his. And that was the opportunity that he took to make it be able to be a universe and to be able to pass the torch to other directors to make their spin-offs when need be, which doesn't need to be connected to the timeline. So he had a plan, and referencing the merchandise and his whole ideas, going back to this Funko Pop of Black Suit Superman, even years before any talk of it was happening, this was for the Man of Steel release, he was teasing us already. He already knew his story, and the way he's able as a storyteller to give us little icons, little teasers, even years before we see anything about it, is what makes him a master.
He's the master of this, of teasing.
For sure. It definitely is. We talked about Superman, we talked about Batman, but let's talk about these other heroes and how Snyder, according to this, how he intends to utilize them in the movies. Werner, you're up first, buddy.
Well, I think Zach didn't have the opportunity to really show all of his plans, because until next year 21, the Snyder Cut, he couldn't really use Aquaman, Cyborg, who was the heart of the movie, no? Well, and we couldn't see what he really had in stock for them. So I guess his true vision we will only get to see next year. But all of his plans he had, we got to see on Vero. All the art designs he showed us and the teaser, we got a look that he knew what he was showing us, and that there was a big plan for all of the Justice League members, every single one of them. But we all know how that ended in 2017 with the Whedon cut. What is not what Snyder had in mind for all of those. And that is the problem for me, to say how good Zack used them, because as of now, he didn't. We got to see Wonder Woman in their own movie. We got a Flash. Not really. He was a joke in Justice League, you can say. Aquaman had a good standalone movie, but it wasn't directed by Zack. And, well, Cyborg, what can we say about Cyborg in 2017? Not what Zack had in mind. Cyborg was supposed to be the heart of the movie, what do you spell it? The center of the team, and we didn't see a little bit of that in the movie. So I guess Zack planted all the seeds, but we couldn't see what will grow of them because we didn't get the Snyder Cut. And we will see next year what really was in stock for us. And I think it's gonna be pretty big for every member of the Justice League. So, yeah, that's gonna be a huge deal.
No, I think I like the way you took it here, because, you know, what we saw in 2017 was not at all what we wanted to see when it came to the Justice League. These characters were utilized completely differently than what Zack had intended. We know that a lot of the story from Cyborg was just gone. Just it disappeared, no longer there. Flash was pushed down to being this comedic part that was quite annoying in most most times. I'm sorry, I cringe every time they're stepping off the airplane and he looks up and sees the bat symbol in the sky. Like, that whole scene just irritates me to no end. And you know, it's just a shame, because these characters were built to back. He was building them to be these, you know, these loners in a way, but strong. You know, these strong people who are strong-willed, who they have an idea of who they are. The movie just didn't show that, and we definitely, I think we would have gotten that, or we are going to get that with the Snyder Cut. Cinema Guerrilla, what do you have in that regard?
I have to agree that that to me, I always remember this quote by Steve Jobs, which says, "Creativity is noticing the connections between everything." And whoever notices those connections and is able to make, you know, their own map, as Zach literally did the story map in that T-shirt. He had his story planned out, and what I would like to keep remembering is that even if we had gotten the kind of character development that we wanted in that cut, it would have been too short. It was supposed to be a 2-part movie, and the fact that they just made it 1 part so they could move on, and, you know, it really was an executive decision. We have to respect and keep remembering that Zack had to be a producer. He had to step outside his director's ego, and he had to make decisions as a businessman. And the board, they had their own plans and their own deadlines. So if only we had the time, because Robert, like you said, watching BVS, the Ultimate Cut, it made it better for you. If only we had more time with these Justice League characters, part 1 and part 2, that was the plan. it would have been, and like Werner says, it may still happen. We may still get that whole vision, or like Robert teases, it may lead on to other more projects that continue that vision. Let's see.
Let's hope.
Yes.
You got anything else? Anybody on in that regard?
Yeah, I'd like to say I agree with Werner and Cinema Guerrilla. Like, what we got in 2017 was a travesty, to put it lightly. And Zach shot a 214-minute cut, which was his edited version from his assembly cut. So his assembly cut must have been like longer, right? With like different takes and all that. But he cut the movie, and he, as Cinema Guerrilla said, like he had to take some decisions. He had to he teased out Dark Side and all that, but he was hoping he would get the chance to make a sequel, his Justice League Part 2. But in case he doesn't, he was prepared to make that one movie a great movie. And it was 214 minutes. That's basically 3.5 hours, right? And Whedon came in, Joss and Jeff and Joss Whedon wrote an 80-page script for the reshoots. And 80 pages is like 1 page is 1 minute, basically, for a script to movie. So they probably shot 80 minutes of footage at least. And so what we saw in the actual movie of Zack, which was heavily altered in itself, with the color grading, ADR changes, everything. Even with that, what Zack shot, what we saw was probably 45 to 50 minutes of the movie, of Zack's movie. So there's still another 2.5 hours of the Justice League movie that we haven't seen. We've seen one frame of like different sequences through Zack teasing it on Vero, and now he's adding 30 minutes to that. So basically, we have 3 hours of footage that we have not seen so far. So the Flash, he might have some jokes in there. He might be trying to be funny because of the mandates given to Zack. Zack tried to spin it in his own way, make him funny in his way, not like the way the studio wanted, obviously. But like we'll still see a Flash that is trying to be funny at times. But then there'll be all these scenes like we saw in the Snyder Cut trailer, the final scene where Flash is being very serious when he's talking about Darkseid. That's a different Ezra Miller. That's a different Flash that we've seen from the 2017 version. We did not see this guy who's scared, but he's not trying to quip and make a joke out of the situation. He's being serious, and that one scene, that's like 10 seconds, I guess. So there's a lot more that we haven't seen, and Cyborg is the heart of the movie. We haven't seen his version of Cyborg. I think Ray was easily available during the reshoot, so they reshot a lot of his portions with the my toe hurt jokes and all those other useless stuff instead of exploring his backstory and his trauma. And Aquaman, we have a lot of screenshots to show that Aquaman, we did not see the intended arc for Aquaman. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman 2, and Superman. Obviously, we got as we all know, like a Frankenstein version of Superman because of the mustache gate issues. So we have whole basically what I'm saying is we have like 3 hours of movie to be seen. So if at the very least we don't get a sequel to it, we can at least have 3 hours of 3 hours more of the proper Justice League that we wanted to see back in 2017.
I like that you brought that up, and there's been a lot of information that has come out since May, so we're looking at 6 months or so now. A lot of information has come out, and some of it has been that Zack shot a lot more than what people think. Now, there's been discussion about there being an actual 5-hour not cut, but 5 hours worth of footage.
Assembly cut,
that he has. Now, you take that into consideration, what is in that 5 hours? Now, there's some talk and some rumor that Zach not only shot the rewrites or some of the ideas that Jeff Johns had come forward with and said, hey, we need to add more jokes here, more jokes here. But Zach did take the time to shoot some of the scenes that he as well wrote alongside the same scene that Jeff wrote. That is some of the discussions that have been going around the internet lately. And we're starting to see a few more signs pointing to that direction being true. Now, we do know that Zach said that he will not use a single frame from any of the reshoots that were done by Josh. He is going back for additional photography. Now, this additional photography, yes, it is going to be adding a few scenes here and there to help establish the world a little bit more, but it's more so because of his cut being cut into a 4-episode story.
Miniseries, yeah.
He needs to have those. He needs to make short flows like episodes now. You know, what he directed before, what he shot before was not like an episodic, show. It was as a film. So he has to go back, add some scenes, do a couple different things here. So, I mean, we know how television shows work. We know that there's going to be some sort of cliffhanger at the end of every episode to get us excited for what's coming up. So that's what Zach is doing with everything now with the additional photography, which is rumored to begin in this month sometime in October. But Henry Cavill the other day, he made a really interesting comment in an interview. And, he was talking about the importance of the Snyder Cut. And this is his quote. He goes, "I'm just really excited to see his vision realized. He got to be the train. I think it's only fair that the train gets to reach its station, which he's aiming for. And I think it's important that vision is realized. Whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. It's a filmmaker's right to have the vision realized. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what that vision was and how it looks." But then he also says, Zach's got the advantage of hindsight now. It's going to be even better. I just want to see a good movie or a series of movies. Very interesting choice of words that he put there. We're getting the Snyder Cut. We know. He's excited about it. Cavill hits it on the head. This is all about, creative integrity, essentially. But he's excited to see a movie or a series of movies. Now, you could take that two ways. You could take it as, okay, he's calling the Snyder Cut because it's going to be in 4 episodes, a series of movies. But that doesn't line up because he says he has hindsight. He knows what he has to do. The movie's shot. He's not adding that much to the movie where he can fully change with that hindsight. I think what he's saying, he has hindsight. I think he's saying, look, his whole entire arc, he now has hindsight. He knows what people want, what people don't want, what people want to see, and he can do his entire arc, his initial 5-part arc, which starts with Man of Steel to Justice League 3. He can do it all now because he has hindsight, and it's going to be better than it ever was going to be. What do you guys think on that? I'm going to start with Cinema Guerrilla here real quick.
Well, good question, because I feel that a key question to ask is in the nightmare sequence. Like, how much are we going to see in this? Like, what is the ultimate goal with that whole scene? Do they need more? Did they shoot more? Are we going to see more? Or is that part of the next wave of potential movies that could come out of this? If this is a success, which of course it will be, and they want more, then the hindsight may be that, yes, they may need to make some more business decisions that are better, that can guarantee the story to continue, whether it be a Man of Steel, anything, or who knows. But since I don't know much of the story either way, let's see what you guys think.
I do want to throw this out there real quick. We do have, while it's not been confirmed or announced by Warner Brothers or directly from Cavill, there's talk that Cavill has signed a multi-picture deal for being Superman for up to 6 films. So keep that in mind as well, because that could play a role with what is going on with the Snyder cut and forward. So I don't know who wants to take next here.
Well, I can make it pretty short because I gotta say, I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean for the future, because we, as the Snyder Cut fans, we know how sure the future is, right? And that's what makes me a little bit, well, how do you say it? Carefully optimistic. I'm sure there's gonna be more of all this, because they don't change the DCEU to the multiverse. There is a plan behind that, and we're gonna see more of him. The Shazam, Black Adam. I'm pretty sure we will see our Man of Steel in these movies. But the big question is, will we see a Man of Steel 2 or Justice League Part 3, 4? What is gonna come? And well, I'm a little bit conflicted here, to be honest. And that's not only because of Zack Snyder and the past of this entire story, but also of the current pandemic we're having. And just a few hours ago, June was moved to 2021, and nobody knows how movies will change the next few months and years. Nothing is going to be the same one way or another.
True.
I'd like to say this and get it out of the way. I'm still mad at Cavill for the comments he made before 2017 release day, saying he's working with Jeff Johns to see the true Superman come to life, and how the right mistakes were made in order to push the universe into the right direction and stuff. And him not being the only cast member who did not tweet during that trending week. But I'm glad that he has changed his tune, and he supports Zach. He wants to see Zach and his Superman. As we all know, Zach is a very collaborative director. He talks to the cast, gets their input, and adds that to the character. So it's as much his as is it's as much Zach's Superman as it is Cavill's. So I'm glad that he's back on track with Zach's Superman, and he sees that there's more to it. There's a future for this. And we have to think about how the AT&T merger affects Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers was an antiquated studio. They were hemorrhaging money. They weren't able to compete with Disney on that level for like the past 5 years. They've been their whole approach from the top to the bottom, from Sujihara and Toby Emmerich.
From the stockholders.
Their whole attitude was more antiquated, very old. Listen to the critics, the Rotten Tomatoes score. Those are the kind of things that they concentrated on, instead of like the fan reaction, the money they made. And AT&T is a tech company. Instead, they look at it from another perspective, whole new perspective, and their thing is to make money. They see that the Snyder Cut has this huge following. They've seen the years of positivity and hope and optimism from the fans, because a lot of stuff just dies down after a year or so, but this continued for 3 years. So they know that there's something there. There are people ready to give them their money. And like Werner said, like, pandemic has accelerated the plans for the future, because the world was going towards a streaming oriented thing. Like more streaming was the big thing. Disney Plus became this huge thing because of one show. They have basically just one show on there. with their catalog of movies, obviously. Mandalorian, so, and Disney is very satisfied with that. They're even adding on to that with their MCU projects being Disney Plus originals. So AT&T is looking to tap into that market like every other studio, like Peacock from NBC, and they need content for their HBO Max streaming site, and they've got some original content here and there, good stuff from Ridley Scott and like Raised by Wolves and such, and but they need a thing that like is premium, like Mandalorian is Star Wars, Star Wars on Disney Plus. So you need a thing
Batman.
that is, yeah, you need a counter, an object to counter that. So that, I think, is what they see in the Snyder Cut. And you'll have the WandaVision and Winter Soldier type spin-offs in the DC universe being loaded onto HBO Max, like the Peacemaker miniseries that was announced. So that will go concurrently, but I think their main focus is the Snyder Cut, because no one would invest like 30 to 70 million, whatever the right amount is, back into a movie that has already been released in the minds of the studio. They wouldn't reinvest money into a project that they just want to get rid of, if that was the aim. They just want to release it and be done with it. If that was the aim, they would not invest all this money and give Zach the opportunity to add 30 minutes, which is going to be peppered throughout the movie, to make it into a series, with cliffhangers, like you said. And I think they want to proceed with it and finish the arc. Netflix sees the potential in Zach, giving him like a whole franchise to work on in Netflix. So they see that, and what we as fans need to do is be optimistic and fight for it. Like, the fight isn't over with the Snyder Cut. We need to keep campaigning, and we need to make the Snyder Cut a success, first of all. Every one of us needs to see it, push the numbers up. When they look at the analytics, they should be wowed. They should be like, this is their golden ticket. So when we show our might, I think they will proceed and full steam ahead with the Snyderverse, because they have to. If they're investing so much, they see potential. So we need to show them there is potential in sequels and not just the Snyder Cut. That's my thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, staying passionate, staying vigilant, staying as excited for the Snyder Cut as possible. I've been shouting that as much as I can for a while now. I want to touch on something Werner said, and actually you as well, Pranav. You talked about the state of Hollywood due to the pandemic, and you're right. I mean, the pandemic has really hurt us big time. We see that with Dune being delayed, being pushed back to the same date that the Batman is currently slated. The Batman, October 1st, 2021 is its release date currently. Without a doubt, it's going to be moved. They're not going to release both the Dune and the Batman at the same time. When is it going to be pushed back? Probably, I can't see it staying in 2021 unless they think it'll be a Christmas time movie, which is a possibility. But they may push it to 2021 or 2022. I mean, if they push it to 2022, it may be a summer release. So it could be another 6 months or more that it would be till we get the Batman. But with all of that, this is the perfect opportunity for these streaming services to grab established, properties and IPs. The Snyder Cut being one of them, and it kind of just played out in HBO Max's favor that the pandemic happened like it did, because this is a perfect opportunity to put some money into that instead of Warner Media saying, what, we might want to release it in the theater. I think it kind of played out, in that way somewhat. Now, with that, if it does well, and I think a lot of it does have to do, if it does well, we will get more. That's my full belief that we're going to get more of it. But you have to remember, you're looking at people like Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa. Those four right there are heavily sought after actors in Hollywood right now. So you can't expect that the Snyder Cut comes out let's just say, being optimistic here, let's say it comes out May of next year. If it comes out May of next year and it does well, 4 episodes, 4 weeks takes you into June. So June, you can't go to those actors and say, hey, we want to do more of the Snyder stuff, but we want to get it out by 2022. What do you say?
Yeah.
You know, they're going to
Amen.
schedules are filled up. You know, like what can you do? This is something they have to plan in advance. The Ben Affleck contract for going back to Flash is not just for the Flash. I am positive that came out because that is something that Warner Brothers controls. They can control saying, hey, Ben is coming to the Flash movie because that is a Warner Brothers film. From the HBO Max Warner Media side, they can't. Warner Brothers couldn't say anything about that contract. They couldn't say anything about him coming and doing a additional Snyder verse films or anything like that. Same with Henry Cavill. This news with his contract, yeah, he's coming back, and they're going to announce it at some point, but they're waiting. They're holding off because of everything that's going on with the pandemic. They don't want to just throw everything out now. We've seen what has happened when DC has and Warner Brothers has said, "Hey, look at all these movies we got coming out. Look at this whole list." None of them come out. You know, where's that Nightwing movie? Where's that Cyborg movie? Where's the Flash movie? You know, all these things haven't gotten.
Green Lantern Corps. That's what I want.
Exactly. So there's so much that we're waiting for, but I can assure you, the more passionate you stay, the louder you are about the Snyder Cut. Pay for HBO Max if you have HBO Max in your area. Get Netflix. Get whatever streaming services. Do not pirate it. If you show the passion, show the excitement continuously, we're gonna get more of the Snyderverse than we are thinking, or we were thinking back in the beginning of May of this year, which is we didn't think we were getting a damn thing. So now the sky is the limit. And yeah, I mean, with that, I kind of want to start to take this down. Let's get some final thoughts. I'm going to go to Pranav here. If you want to start, we'll then go Werner and then Cinema Guerrilla. So go for it.
Okay. I'd like to remind people that Amazon is investing, I think, $1 billion for like 4 seasons of their Lord of the Rings show. They just invested $250 million to get the rights to adapt it. So that is huge. That is unprecedented. You know, so it's not like HBO Max won't invest as much as a movie costs to make a sequel. You know, like 200 million budget for Justice League 2 to be played exclusively on HBO Max. That's a thing, you know, and they can convince Warner Brothers, who are still in a different mindset in regards to their universe, you know, to release it theatrically if it's profitable. It all depends on the landscape, but like I agree with what Robert said. You know, we need to be optimistic. We need to show our passion. We need to be loud. We need to be positive, and we need to show them that we are. This is a potential IP that will make them a lot of money, and we are open to giving them our money for this franchise.
Yeah, well said. And I gotta say, hang onto it, just like the two of you said. And what I must say, just calm a little bit down and be kind to another, because everybody is talking about toxic fans and all that. And I think we are such a great fandom. We got such a great franchise. And the way it looks now, we have a great future together. And all I have to say is stay positive, stay the course, be kind to each other, help, whether it's our franchise, whether it's people, help wherever you can. And we all will have a great future together, whether it's the movies, it's just the human beings we are. Just be kind. Be grateful, be thankful, be optimistic, and we all gonna get through this and have a great time doing so.
Yeah. Yes. Very well said, Dr. and Werner. I have to say that you can't save the world alone. That was a big poster in front of the Warner Brothers studios. And let's say whenever I would complain about the injustices that I would see at Warner Brothers, the racism that I felt and the the phobia that I felt as an immigrant as well, especially during this climate, people would always tell me it's the stockholders. It's the stockholders. So in a way, we have to remember that these properties are owned by people who are way rich than we will ever be, and that they really don't care about the fans as much, or they didn't used to. You know, Batman v Superman was in development for over 20 years. And we may be in that same position now of those fans back in the 80s and 70s getting these rumors of these movies. And to be patient with each other is all we need to be. We need to remember that this is our childhood dreams come to life, and that we can't save the world alone. And we're all in this together. And for Autumn.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. Well, guys, thank you for jumping on, talking with us. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am willing to have any of you on my show, Bridging the Geekdoms, whenever you guys want. Just find me on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter, because my show is all about the fans. I love talking with fans, discussing everything with the fans. That's what I love about it. So definitely hit me up, any one of you. Again, with me, you can find my show, Bridging the Geekdoms, and myself at spoilerverse.com. That's where you're going to find everything. You can find me on Twitter at Bridge Geekdoms. Dr. Pranav, where can people find you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at PranavPK23. That's PranavPK23. And you guys can catch me on the Film Exiles podcast. We have a Aquatus t-shirt breakdown article on our website too, if you guys want to check it out. You guys should check out Robert's article about the t-shirt breakdown too. Bridging the Geekdom. I'll let you plug that in. But yeah, you guys can catch me on the Film Exiles podcast and on Twitter. Thanks.
Werner, where can anybody find you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Werner Kissman with one S and two N. That's where you found me. And I'm in some German projects, just here, just there. No safe place. I'm going where the fun is, and always with our Release the Snyder Cut movement. So I'll be everywhere where you are, but you won't see me.
All right. Cinema Guerrilla, how about you?
Spoken like a true Batman. I am at cinema.guerrilla on Instagram, and I'm posting exclusive photos of my internship for BVS and for Justice League. And any questions you guys need to ask, especially film students, hit me up.
Excellent. Yeah, make sure you all check out all the previous episodes of the Round Table. It's pretty excellent. Like I said, I haven't been able to check them all out, but what I have, there's a lot of good information. It's passion. That's what this is all about. We're all passionate about Snyder and what he has brought to us and what he has been doing. It's just continued passion. We need to continue showing him, HBO, Warner Media, how much we want this and how much we love what we're getting and how much we're thankful for what they're doing. So with all of that said, everybody, thanks for coming on, and I will talk to all of you at some other point in time. See ya.